the likelihood of finding intact dinosaur remains preserved in ice is pretty low. This is primarily because dinosaurs lived during the Mesozoic era, tens of millions of years ago, and the remains are typically found as fossilized bones or traces rather than as frozen specimens. The geological time gap between dinosaurs and the more recent frozen environments where mammoth carcasses have been discovered makes the existence of frozen, intact dinosaur specimens highly improbable. But who knows, maybe in the future a discovery might change it all. Halley's Inner Earths. Edmund Halley, a prominent 17th century scholar, proposed a unique theory about the Earth's structure, suggesting that it was not only hollow but also filled with a bunch of smaller, concentric spheres, similar to a Russian doll. He based his theory on his observations of periodic magnetic pole shifts. According to Halley, these inner hollow globes rotate independently of each other, producing what he termed as the deep music of the rolling world, a seismic music that he claimed to have detected and transcribed in his manuscript on the subject. Despite the initial interest in his theory, later scientific discoveries and advancements led to the discrediting of Halley's proposal. The concept of a hollow Earth, including Halley's ideas, has since become a common element in fiction and folklore. Halley's theories, while ultimately disproven, remains an intriguing part of the history of scientific thought and the ongoing human quest to understand the mysteries of the natural world. Astropaleontology. Astropaleontology is the hypothetical study of fossils of extraterrestrial organisms, a term first coined by John Amundsen. This field is part of the broader discipline of astrobiology, which focuses on the study of the origins, early evolution, distribution, and future of life in the universe. The primary goal of astropaleobiology, a related field, is to locate and interpret evidence of former life, requiring a multidisciplinary approach that includes scientific efforts in various fields. While the concept of astropaleontology sounds pretty interesting, as of now, there's no confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial life, and the study of fossils and extraterrestrial organisms remains speculative. Despite this, the field has attracted attention and has since been the subject of discussions and research, particularly in the context of astrobiological applications. Ray Stanford's occult links. Ray Stanford was an American amateur paleontologist, known for his significant contributions to paleontology and his remarkable fossil discoveries. He gained attention for his impressive ability in finding fossils and gathering a vast private collection. However, his views and practices often made him a controversial figure within the scientific community. Stanford was known for being critical of what he perceived as scientific gatekeeping, and was sometimes hesitant to share detailed information about his discoveries with the wider scientific community. This reluctance to divulge his findings led to some skepticism and controversy surrounding his work within the field of paleontology. Additionally, Stanford held unconventional beliefs in the field of ufology, the study of unidentified flying objects, and claimed to have encounters with extraterrestrial beings. He asserted that these encounters had granted him psychic abilities, including the purported ability to find fossils. Stanford attributed his success in finding fossils to these alleged telepathic communications with extraterrestrial entities, rather than simply relying on traditional paleontological methods. Permanent darkness and dinosaur finds. Thomas Hawkins was an English fossil collector and dealer, particularly known for his work with ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs. He published several texts between the 1830s and 1850s, with his two best-known works being Memoirs of Ichthyosauri and Plesiosauri, and the Book of the Great Sea Dragons. Hawkins' writings were characterized by a hyper-Miltonic style, which is very prosaic and dramatic. One of the more unusual and persistent claims across Hawkins' work was the idea that ichthyosaurs and pterodactyls lived in complete darkness. He speculated that the sun's light, if it existed at the time, could not penetrate the atmospheric layers of smog, which maintained a permanently nocturnal surface on Earth. If anyone wants to read more about Hawkins' work, Ralph O'Connor's book, The Earth on Show, Fossils in the Poetics of Popular Science, 1802-1856, is a good one out there that delves into it. This book explores the portrayal of the geological past to the public and examines how new ideas about deep time and Earth's history were communicated during the early Victorian era. Spiral arm causes cyclic mass extinction. This entry is about the idea that the sun's galactic spiral arm led to cyclic mass extinction events on Earth. This hypothesis suggests a connection between the Earth's position within the Milky Way galaxy's spiral arm and major extinction events, such as the Permian-Triassic extinction, which occurred around 252 million years ago. Proponents of this theory suggest that as the solar system moves through the Milky Way spiral arms, it encounters varying levels of cosmic radiation, different gravitational forces, or altered distributions of interstellar matter. These encounters, it's theorized, could potentially trigger disturbances in the Earth's environment and contribute to catastrophic events leading to mass extinction. The concept proposes that during specific periods when the solar system is positioned further from the galactic habitability zone, there could be increased risk of disruption to Earth's systems, including climate change, increased cosmic radiation exposure, or other cosmic influences that might negatively impact life on Earth. The geological record does show evidence of major extinction events throughout Earth's history, but attributing these events solely to the sun's position within the Milky Way's spiral arms is challenging to confirm. Pterosaurs could not walk. This theory, proposed by C.D. Bramwell and G.R. Whitfield in 1974, suggests that pterosaurs were incapable of supporting their body weight on the ground, and instead became airborne by sliding off cliffs on their stomachs. Their hypothesis was based on the anatomical structure of pterosaurs, specifically their limb proportions and wing structure. They proposed that due to their biomechanics and proportions of their limbs, pterosaurs might have faced difficulties in walking or taking off from the ground. According to his theory, instead of taking off from a standing position, pterosaurs might have used alternative methods such as launching themselves off cliffs or elevated surfaces. The idea was that they would rely on gravity and momentum, sliding down surfaces to become airborne, somewhat similar to the way penguins on land use their bodies to propel themselves forward. While it's true that pterosaurs had unique anatomical features, the idea that they were entirely incapable of walking or taking off the ground isn't really accepted. Birds stem hemotherm. The concept that birds and mammals share a common ancestor, classified as stem hemotherm or stem amnionite, is a minority of speculative view in evolutionary biology. Richard Owen, a prominent 19th century biologist and paleontologist, proposed a taxonomic category called hemothermia, which encompasses birds and animals, suggesting certain similarities between these groups. However, modern evolutionary biology and paleontology have since established that birds and mammals evolved along separate evolutionary paths from different reptilian ancestors. The idea of a shared ancestor between birds and mammals resurfaced though in the late 20th century, notably in the work of scientists like Soren Lothrop, Brian Gardiner, and Philip Jandreau. These researchers proposed the concept of a stem amnionite that could have given rise to both birds and mammals in ancient evolutionary history. This hypothesis suggests the existence of a hypothetical ancestor group that preceded the divergence of birds and mammals within the larger context of vertebrate evolution. The stem amnionite was envisioned as a creature possessing certain characteristics or features common to both birds and mammals, which later evolved into the distinct lineages we recognize today. This illustration by Philippe Janvier represents a speculative depiction of what such an ancient creature might have looked like based on evolutionary relationships. Fossils in European devil lore. In European folklore and historical beliefs, there were instances where fossils and certain natural phenomena were associated with superstitions and beliefs involving the devil and witchcraft. Basically, fossilized creatures or unusual geological specimens sometimes played a role in cultural narratives and were linked to supernatural or demonic explanations. During the medieval and early modern periods, when scientific understanding was limited and superstitions were common, people often encountered fossils and unfamiliar geological formations. These discoveries were often misunderstood or interpreted within the framework of religious beliefs, folklore, and superstitions which were present at the time. In some cases, unusual fossils or ancient remains found on Earth were perceived as straight-up monstrous or mysterious creatures of the past. There were beliefs that associated these remnants with devilish activities, attributing their origins to mythical beings or demons. Such interpretations were sometimes incorporated into artistic depictions or stories, reflecting the prevailing cultural beliefs. An example is the Witch's Sabbath with reconstructed skeleton of monster by Marco Antonio Raimondi, which is an artistic representation from the 16th century that reflects these beliefs. In this artwork, the illustration depicts a scene involving witches and a reconstructed or assembled skeleton of a monstrous creature. Gressleyosaurus madness. Gressleyosaurus, named after discoverer Ammons Gressle, is a genus of Plateosaurus sauropodomorph dinosaur that lived during the late Triassic period, around 214 to 204 million years ago. The story of Gressleyosaurus intertwines with the tragic tale of its discoverer, Gressle, a Swiss geologist and paleontologist who made significant contributions to the field of stratigraphy and paleoecology. He introduced the use of the term facies in geology and is considered one of the founders of modern stratigraphy and paleoecology. Gressle worked as an assistant to Louis Agassiz and made important geological observations in the Jura Mountains. Unfortunately though, Gressle suffered from mental health issues, and not only that, but Agassiz betrayed Gressle and stole some of his fossils, causing him to live a reclusive life before being institutionalized in an asylum in 1864. His friend and fellow paleontologist Oswald Heer visited him in this asylum and later wrote that Gressle and I'll quote what he said, was agonized by the thought that he had transformed into this Graciosaurus. It's a sad story, but it goes to show the close relationship some scientists can have with their work, to the extent that it becomes a defining part of their identity. Tongue hole Dolo. Louis Dolo, a prominent Belgian paleontologist, suggested the presence of an opening in the lower jaw of Iguanodon, believing it to be an adaptation for the tongue. He proposed that this opening might have accommodated a retractable, cameo-like tongue that Iguanodon could extend to reach vegetation. Dolo's idea was an attempt to explain the feeding behavior of Iguanodon, based on the fossil evidence available at the time. Later scientific investigation and closer examination of Iguanodon fossils revealed that the supposed opening Dolo, described in the lower jaw, was actually an artifact or a crack in the fossil, rather than a natural anatomical feature of the dinosaur. Subsequent studies and re-examinations of Iguanodon demonstrated that Dolo's interpretation regarding the tongue hole was incorrect. Despite the error in Dolo's interpretation, his idea was incorporated into several textbooks and scientific illustrations before it was corrected. Telliard Psychical Research, Griffinfly Sciences. An important paleoentomologist, made significant contributions to the study of insect evolution in the early 20th century. He also had a lifelong interest in the occult, which intersected with his scientific pursuits. Telliard's fascination with the flight mechanics of giant griffin flies led him to visit mediums in an attempt to observe the behavior of these prehistoric insects in spiritual form. Despite his interest in psychical research, Telliard maintained a skeptical stance. When a medium predicted his death in a car crash within the next 10 years, Telliard expressed skepticism about such psychic foresight. However, in a tragic turn of events, Telliard was killed in a car accident in 1937. His involvement in psychical research and his scientific work reflect the complex and multifaceted nature of his interests and pursuits. Compsognathus fins. The claim that Compsognathus had flippers instead of grasping claws was initially described by Alan Bedard and Gerald Frommel in 1972. They proposed the existence of a new species, Compsognathus corallistris, with modified dolphin-like flippers, envisioning it as a semi-aquatic animal. However, it was later determined that the fossil had been geologically distorted, giving the appearance of flattened flippers, when in reality it wasn't part of the actual animal. This discovery debunked the initial claim, but not before it had influenced some popular paleo art and media representations, creating some pretty cool depictions of what it looked like. Essentially, the idea of Compsognathus having flippers was based on the misinterpretation of the fossil evidence, and it has since been corrected in scientific understanding. Who Lies Sleeping? Who Lies Sleeping is a book by Rex and Rita Stanford that goes into unconventional and speculative theories regarding pre-human civilizations and suggests the existence of a Saurian pre-human society. This book presents hypotheses suggesting that this ancient civilization was capable of advanced technology and might have met its end through nuclear warfare. Also, it suggests the existence of a secretive, dinosaur-like ruling elite, or cabal, that might still have influence in modern times. The ideas explored in Who Lies Sleeping touch upon speculative concepts such as Saurian humanoid species, often referred to as dinosauroids, which we introduced in Tier 1. Theories of ancient civilizations predating recorded human history and the potential connection between dinosaurs and certain concepts found in fringe theories like UFO lore and pseudo-archaeology. These speculative concepts include notions like bioraptorism, which are described as predatory creatures resembling dinosaurs, Aves sapiens that suggest bird-like intelligent beings, and the idea that dinosaurs might be linked to alleged extraterrestrial or supernatural entities, such as greys or reptiles, if anyone remembers that entry. I'll link this book down too if anyone wants to explore more of these conspiracy theories. Paleodictyon. The Cambrian period, approximately 541 to 485 million years ago, is best known for the Cambrian explosion, a significant diversification of life forms. During this time, mysterious fossil traces resembling hexagonal honeycombs known as Paleodictyon have been found on the Cambrian seabed. These mysterious traces have sparked some scientific interest and debate. Seemingly recent examples of these traces have been discovered, which brought a suggestion that live specimens could still exist today. However, the creature associated with these traces also remains unknown, linked to two main theories. The first theory suggests that the traces are the direct bodily imprint of something like a polyp or sponge, while the second theory proposes that they are tunnel systems or burrows for an as of yet unknown animal. Additionally, the possibility that Paleodictyon is an abiotic formation, known as a pseudofossil, has also been suggested. So basically, the study of Paleodictyon and the ongoing debate surrounding its origins is still a mystery of the ancient world. Pedum caused by primitive civilization. The Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, or pedum, was a period occurring around 56 million years ago known for its significant global warming rate. During this period, there was a rapid release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, linked to substantial warming, ocean acidification, and changes in ecosystems. Some theories, such as the Silurian hypothesis, suggest the possibility of ancient pre-human civilizations that might have existed in deep time, even during periods like the Petli. More of this hypothesis suggests that the sudden increase in fossil carbons during the Petli could potentially be attributed to carbon fuel use by an ancient civilization, similar to how humans use fossil fuels today. And remember how the thought experiment also says that finding direct evidence, such as technological artifacts, is unlikely due to the rarity of fossilization and the constant changes on Earth's surface. Therefore, the sudden increase in fossil carbon during the Petli could for sure indicate the use of carbon fuels by an ancient civilization. But right now, there's no strong evidence to support this claim, so it remains an interesting theory out there. Noogenesis. The concept of noogenesis is associated with Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, a French philosopher, paleontologist, and Jesuit priest who proposed the idea of an evolutionary process that involved the emergence and development of consciousness in the universe. Teilhard de Chardin was the one that introduced the concept of the megapoint, which again represents the theoretical endpoint or culmination of cosmic evolution. According to his theory, the universe is evolving toward a complex state of consciousness and unity, which he termed the megapoint. Noogenesis refers to an evolutionary process in which consciousness emerges and evolves. Teilhard de Chardin argued that consciousness, particularly human consciousness, is not merely an accidental outcome, but an integral part of the universe's evolution. He proposed that as life evolved, consciousness emerged, leading to the development of the noosphere. The noosphere refers to a sphere or realm of human thought and collective consciousness, encompassing the entirety of human intellectual activity, knowledge, and interconnectedness. Teilhard de Chardin envisioned the noosphere as a stage in the evolution of Earth, where human consciousness and communication become increasingly interconnected and influential. According to Teilhard de Chardin's philosophical and theological perspective, the noosphere, representing the collective human consciousness, would continue to evolve and eventually converge into a higher level of unity and spiritual fulfillment known as Christogenesis. This concept suggests that the evolutionary process leads to a transcendent stage of unity and spiritual realization, which you can tell from the name is associated with the teachings of Christ. Dark matter killed the dinosaurs. Lisa Randall, Michael Rampino, and Michael Reese, among other scientists, have explored ideas linking dark matter to the mass extinction events in Earth's history, including the extinction of the dinosaurs. Dark matter, a mysterious invisible substance that doesn't emit or interact with electromagnetic radiation, makes a significant portion of the universe's mass. However, it's only been observed indirectly through its gravitational effects on visible matter. The proposed hypothesis suggests various ways which dark matter might have affected Earth, potentially leading to mass extinctions. One hypothesis proposes as the solar system orbits the galaxy, it might periodically pass through regions of space containing dense clumps or concentrations of dark matter. These encounters could potentially disturb the orbits of comets or asteroids in the Oort cloud, leading to increased impacts on Earth and triggering mass extinction events. Other speculative ideas suggest that Earth's orbit might intersect with specific regions or planes of dark matter, causing gravitational disturbances that could disrupt the stability of the solar system or lead to increased cosmic impacts. Alien space viruses cause evolution. Hoyle. Sir Fred Hoyle, a prominent astronomer and cosmologist, proposed some unorthodox ideas about the role of extraterrestrial viruses in the evolution of life on Earth. Hoyle, along with Chandra Wickramasinghe, were the ones that developed the hypothesis called panspermia, which again suggests that life exists throughout the universe and is distributed by comets, meteorites, or interstellar dust carrying microorganisms, including viruses. The life cloud theory speculated that these cosmic agents, such as viruses or other microscopic life forms, continually rain down on Earth from space. They proposed that these extraterrestrial viral particles, arriving from cosmic deliveries, could have influenced the course of evolution and played a significant role in the development of life on our planet. Hoyle and Wickramasinghe suggest that these spaceborne viruses could have triggered rapid mutations in organisms upon arrival, potentially leading to evolutionary changes and even mass extinctions. They proposed that viral infections from space might have caused the transformation of certain ancient life forms, such as dinosaurs or pterosaurs, into different species including mammals and birds, particularly during significant extinction events like the end Cretaceous extinction that marked the end of the dinosaurs. The Namilosphere. The concept of the Namilosphere was proposed by Randolph Kirkpatrick, a sponge geologist in 1912. Kirkpatrick's theory suggests that the Earth's crust was formed from the accumulated remains of millions of years' worth of foraminifera shells, specifically a type of large, dish-shaped foraminifera known as nummelites. Foraminifera are a diverse group of single-celled organisms, often with shells made of calcium carbonate, that are abundant in marine environments. Nummulites are a specific genus of large, lens-shaped foraminifera that lived during the Paleogene and Eocene epochs, and are known for their distinctive coin-like appearance. Kirkpatrick proposed that the vast accumulation of nummulites over immense periods of time formed layers of sedimentary rock, contributing to the structure of the Earth's crust. He envisioned that these ancient foraminifera, through their continuous deposition and accumulation, played a fundamental role in the formation of geological strata and the shaping of the planet's surface.
Overactive pituitary gland killed dinosaurs. Franz Berezovska, an influential and somewhat eccentric figure in paleontology, proposed an intriguing theory about the potential role of overactive pituitary glands in the extinction of dinosaurs. Novska suggested that dinosaurs may have suffered from conditions related to the pituitary gland, leading to giant sizes and resulting in evolutionary disadvantages that contributed to their demise. Novska's theory of evolutionary inertia basically suggested that the pituitary gland, responsible for secreting growth hormones, might have been overactive in certain dinosaur species. According to his hypothesis, this overactivity of the pituitary gland could have caused dinosaurs to grow to exceptionally large sizes, which in turn led to certain psychological and ecological disadvantages. He theorized that the disproportionately large sizes of some dinosaurs might have hindered their ability to adapt to changing environmental conditions, making them less flexible or agile compared to smaller species. To be honest, the first time I heard this, I immediately thought about T-Rex and his arms compared to his body, maybe because of all the memes out there. I remember when some of my friends would poke at this one friend for having small arms, calling them T-Rex arms. Anyways, Novska essentially believed that this evolutionary disadvantage, combined with environmental changes and other factors, could have contributed to the extinction of these giant creatures. In his research, Novska examined various fossilized brain cases, searching for evidence of an enlarged pituitary gland in dinosaurs. Although his theory was really unique and interesting, it lacked empirical evidence, and the study of internal structures in fossilized remains was pretty limited during his time. Flying Dimetrodon pairs. Alright, to be honest, I couldn't really find anything on this entry when searching it up besides like a Reddit post, and I don't really know the whole context behind it, but from everyone's responses, I'm guessing it was like a joke or like an April Fool's thing. But yeah, that's pretty much all we have about the entry, so next entry. Also of the witness to the deluge. Johann Jacob Schweitzer, a Swiss nationalist, scholar, and physician, published a book in 1726 titled Homo Diluvi Testis, Man Witness to the Deluge. In his book, Schweitzer described what he believed to be the fossilized remains of a human, suggesting that was evidence of a person who perished during the Great Flood described in the Bible. Schweitzer saw it as basically the historical proof of the biblical flood. This interpretation aligned with his religious beliefs and his attempt to find scientific evidence supporting the biblical narrative. However, when his claims were eventually analyzed by scientific research, it revealed that the fossilized bones he identified as human actually belonged to extinct giant salamanders. The misidentification was corrected in 1811 when the French anatomist Georges Cuvier correctly identified the fossil as an ancient amphibian. Schweitzer's case is often brought up as an example of an early misinterpretation of fossils because of religious or preconceived beliefs. Godzillas. The Godzilla's fossil is a mysterious discovery that was unearthed in northern Kentucky by amateur paleontologist Ron Fine. The fossil, which dates back 450 million years, was found in the Cincinnati region, which was once covered by shallow seas, making it a favorable location for fossil discoveries. The fossil is approximately 3.5 feet wide and 6.5 feet long, making it a significant and unusual find. The fossil is an unusual texture created by a directional pattern on its surface and was found with small animal fossils attached to it, known as tribulates, which may provide clues necessary for the fossil's eventual identification. The discovery has stumped scientists though, and believe it or not, they're still trying to find its identity. The fossil has been subject of scientific study and debate, and its unique characteristics have led to various theories and speculations about it. And to be honest, the first time I heard this fossil, I thought it was going to be like super huge and like scary monster like Godzilla, but yeah, it's not really the case. Earth periodically restocks extinct animals. This entry is about the theory that Earth periodically restocks extinct animals, as proposed by John Michael and Robert Rickard. The theory attempts to explain the rediscovery of certain animals thought to be extinct, like the example of the Bermuda petrel, which was thought to have been exterminated in the 17th century, only for a colony to be rediscovered in 1951. Michael and Rickard extend the theory to cryptozoological appearances of saurians and apemen, suggesting that creatures now extinct continue to haunt regions in phantom form, with occasional real physical appearances until the time comes to re-establish themselves. This theory, while not supported by scientific evidence, still raises some pretty interesting questions about extinction and the rediscovery of species. The theory of periodically stocking of extinct species, although speculative, goes to show the mysterious nature of the fossil record sometimes, and how new discoveries can change things in an instant. It's pretty cool to think that for 100 years, a creature could be believed to be extinct, and then randomly discovery proves that we were all wrong. Bioraptor and evolutionary bioparanoia. The concept of Bioraptor McLaughlini, as proposed by John McLaughlin in 1984, is a hypothetical creature that pretty much goes beyond mainstream science and into speculative fiction. McLaughlin's idea of a Bioraptor envisions a creature resembling a sapient raptor or dinosaur, which he presented as a more reasonable version compared to previous renditions. He described it as having a saurian appearance while still possessing an otherworldly or alien-like quality. McLaughlin used this hypothetical creature as part of a thought experiment, discussing lost pre-human civilizations during the Mesozoic era. In his broader theory, termed evolutionary bioparanoia, McLaughlin suggested that civilizations, including hypothetical ancient ones, are short-lived on geological timescales and leave minimal evidence of their existence. He proposed that these civilizations, like the hypothetical Bioraptor society, might have led to their own downfall through actions such as mass agriculture, excessive mineral extraction, environmental degradation, and even nuclear warfare, ultimately causing their own extinction. The idea of lost pre-human civilizations leaving minimal trace in the geological record has been brought up a few times actually in this iceberg chart, but with all the theories out there, it's still largely speculative. Sterkfontein Cave Psychometry. The Sterkfontein Cave Psychometry is about the involvement of a psychic, Jeffrey Hodson, in an archaeological research project at the Sterkfontein Caves, where the bones of the first discovered Australopithecus were found. Jeffrey Hodson, a member of the Theosophical Society, performed psychometry on the fossil remains at the caves. We introduced this topic earlier, and for a quick recap, it basically involves obtaining psychic impressions from an object. Hodson claimed to have recorded ghostly sounds imprinted on the fossils, which he interpreted as the horrified screams of a caveman's final moments. This dual collaboration between a psychic and a paleontologist concerning those of such a significant archaeological site led to some interest and discussion, since it blended both science and the paranormal. It comes up sometimes in the ongoing debate about the role of psychics in archaeological and paleontological research. Vascular plants evolved from inside-out lichens. Peter Aztet's 1988 hypothesis proposing an unconventional origin of vascular plants offers a pretty interesting departure from the mainstream understanding of plant evolution. Aztet suggested an alternative idea challenging the prevalent view that modern land plants descended from algae. Instead, he proposed the concept involving the symbiotic merger of a majority of algae with a mineral scavenging fungi component, resulting in an ancestral organism with the same characteristics, or otherwise an inside-out structure where the majority of the organism was algae and the interior contained fungi. This idea suggests a departure from the typical understanding of lichens, where fungi dominate the symbiotic relationship. Basically, Aztet's proposition presents a reverse scenario where the algae constitute the primary component, contrasting with the commonly observed structure of modern lichens. The hypothesis opens intriguing possibilities regarding the complexity of plant evolution, and the potential for different symbiotic relationships to have played a role in shaping the characteristics of early plant ancestors. Longuisquama feathers were just leaves. The mysterious reptile Longuisquama from the Jurassic period has intrigued scientists due to its distinct feature, that being long feather-like structures along its back. These structures, resembling elongated hockey-shaped quills or scales, have sparked a few fringe theories about their nature and purpose. One of these theories presents an alternative explanation, suggesting that what appears to be feathers on Longuisquama were in fact leaves or plant matter accidentally preserved with the fossilized remains. The argument primarily relies on the observation that in only just one fossil specimen are the presumed feathers directly associated with the animal's body. In other cases, the feather-like structures were found separately, not in connection with the animal's remains. So you can see how it actually does make a reasonable theory. Like if I was a paleontologist, I'd probably think the same. However, the fact is though, this interpretation still remains controversial for several reasons. Firstly, the mode of preservation observed in Longuisquama fossils is inconsistent with the preservation of plant material. Additionally, attempts to identify these supposed leaves with any known plants from the Triassic era have not been successful, casting doubt on the theory. Lacasse subterra erosion theory. Claude Nicolas Lacasse, a French surgeon in the 18th century, proposed an unconventional theory about the Earth's structure and its eventual fate. In 1744, Lacasse introduced the concept of subterranean erosion, suggesting that Earth was gradually collapsing inward due to erosion occurring beneath the surface. According to his theory, this ongoing erosion would eventually hollow out the Earth entirely. Lacat's hypothesis implied a cyclic process, reflecting his belief in reoccurrence or repetition in natural phenomena. He envisioned a future where the Earth would collapse inward completely and result in a hollow interior. Following this complete collapse, Lacat believed that the Earth would re-emerge, restarting the process of erosion and collapse once again. This theory presented by Lacat was really unconventional for its time, and so it was a great contrast to the prevailing scientific understanding of geology and the Earth's structure. His theory ended up getting not much traction within the scientific community. Over time, advancements in geology and earth sciences have provided alternative, evidence-based explanations for the Earth's structure and processes, which again don't align with Lacat's theory. Dinosaurs were going extinct before the meteor. The study led by Fabien Lacandamine and colleagues in 2021 presents a really interesting perspective, suggesting that dinosaurs might have actually been experiencing a decline even before the famous meteor impact event, which everyone knows about. The study's findings challenge the long-held assumption that the meteor impact was the sole cause of the demise of non-avian dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period. Lacandamine's research points to a significant decline in herbivorous non-avian dinosaurs towards the end of the Cretaceous era. They suggest that this decline might have been influenced by specific factors, such as the dominance of hadrosaurs, a type of herbivorous dinosaurs, potentially outcompeting other herbivores, leading to a reduction in overall diversity among herbivorous dinosaurs. Also, the study suggests that the risk of extinction among these dinosaurs might have been associated with the age of species during this decline. This finding implies that certain species might have been less adaptable or lacked evolutionary novelty necessary to cope with changing environmental conditions, thereby making them more vulnerable to extinction. Preformatationism. Preformatationism is a historical idea about the development of organisms, mostly in medieval and early modern times. It proposed that all living beings were preformed during the initial creation of the Earth, existing in miniature form within their parents. This concept suggested that within each being resided a fully formed and tiny version of themselves, which would grow and develop through maturation rather than originating from an embryo or seed. The notion of preformatationism had historical roots, with some early proponents including the poet-naturalist Lucretius from the late Roman Empire. Who knew people were interested in paleo even back then? Lucretius formulated a theory that all species didn't evolve but were born directly from the Earth's surface. He proposed that the Earth, when young and vigorous, could give birth to myriad giant and exotic creatures. According to Lucretius, the seeds or atoms of every conceivable creature were stored within the Earth's womb, and as Earth aged, it lost its vitality to produce large creatures, resulting in the emergence of smaller ones directly from the soil. This early concept resembles a form of preformatationism, where the existence of organisms was thought to be preordained and inherent in the Earth's composition from its inception. They attribute the origin and development of living beings to a predetermined blueprint within nature, rather than through the process of embryonic development or evolutionary change. Pterosaurs couldn't fly. Alright, so this is a pretty wild claim that pterosaurs could not fly, as was suggested by Katsufumi Sato's research. Sato's studies use accelerometers attached to the wings of albatrosses to calculate the necessary wingspan to weight ratio for flight, and he concluded that even conservative reconstructions of large pterosaurs, such as Quetzalcoatlus, were too heavy to fly or glide. However, those who argued against this theory claimed that the comparison to albatrosses is misleading and arbitrarily selected. Recent studies have provided new insights into pterosaur flight capabilities. For instance, an international team of scientists used imaging techniques to uncover details of pterosaur soft tissue, and their modeling suggested that certain pterosaurs have the capability to launch themselves from water. Also, quantitative tests have been used to assess the flight potential of hatchling pterosaurs, with some studies suggesting that even little hatchlings, well maybe not little considering the insane size of pterosaurs, has the capacity for sustained far-reaching glides. But the unique flight-related anatomy of pterosaurs, such as their long, tapering wings and hollow bones, is still being researched. Therefore, the debate over pterosaur flight capabilities still continues. Breeding stones. This idea is about the concept of stones, fossils, or minerals engaging in a form of reproduction or birth that's existed across some historical and cultural contexts. This notion, known as breeding stones, proposes that these geological objects have the ability to copulate or generate offspring, like organic life forms. In the 18th century, Michael Valentini, a scientific authority of that time, proposed the theory that stones could breed or reproduce deep within the earth. Similar ideas were also persistent in folklore and cultural traditions across Europe. For instance, in Irish and English folklore, there were beliefs surrounding revered boulders known as rock mothers. These boulders were thought to possess small hollows from which smaller stones were believed to be born. The belief was that these smaller stones in turn could produce more stones, symbolizing a form of reproduction within the natural world. When I was working on my ancient structures video a while back, stones were actually pretty common in the entries, like the Easter Island statues. So after researching a bunch of those topics, I can see how people of ancient times could attribute these beliefs to rocks or stones. Harley Garbani ESP. Harley Garbani, an amateur fossil hunter, was renowned for his exceptional ability to discover unique fossils. He attributed his success to a heightened sense of intuition, which he believed guided him to these finds. Even professional paleontologists were amazed at the effectiveness of Garbani's intuition, with some suggesting that bordered on what could be considered as actual telepathic insight or extrasensory perception, or other words, ESP, like the entry says. Garbani's discoveries, which include significant dinosaur finds, were highly regarded in the paleontological community. His work has left a lasting impact, and his prime fossil finds are on display. At prestigious institutions. Some of these include the Natural History Museum at Los Angeles, the University of California Museum of Paleontology, and the Museum of the Rockies in Bozeman, Montana. Even though he was an amateur, Garbani's work was the envy of professionals, and he was revered by scientists who spoke in near mystical terms of his ability for finding fossils. Lynxia cheetah. The Lynxia cheetah, also known as Acinonyx cortini, was a shocking discovery of a primitive cheetah skull from China. The fossil was initially reported to be one of the oldest cheetah fossils ever found, with an estimated age of approximately 2.2 to 2.5 million years. The discovery was published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America, which was a pretty big deal. However, the authenticity of the fossil was soon called into question by other scientists, who alleged that the skull was a hoax, with parts composed of plastic. Even though there was a controversy, the article was not retracted until 2012, and the authors maintained that they didn't mean to deliberately hoax anyone. The case of the Lynxia cheetah in turn helped highlight the real problem of fakes and the murkiness of the fossil supply chains, especially in the black market fossil trade. To be honest, I didn't even know there was a black market fossil trade. The fossil was ultimately accepted as a forgery in 2012 and is now considered a discredited specimen. Primeval Universal Ocean. Abraham Werner's concept of the universal ocean, proposed in 1787, was a significant idea in the field of geology during its earlier years. Werner, a prominent geologist, suggests that the Earth's surface was initially covered by a vast and all-encompassing ocean termed the universal ocean. According to Werner's theory, this ocean was responsible for shaping the Earth's geological formations. The Neptunism theory, put forward by Werner, proposed that the various geological strata observed on the Earth's surface were formed as the universal ocean gradually receded over extended periods. As the water diminished, it revealed the underlying seafloor and left behind layers of sedimentary material. Werner attributed the creation of these geological strata to the accumulation of loose mineral materials that were deposited due to the actions of waves and storms within the universal ocean. Werner's Neptunism theory was foundational in the early discourse of geology, creating debate and serving as a contrast to the competing theory of Plutonianism. Plutonianism, advocated by James Hutton and others, proposed that geological formations were primarily a result of volcanic activity and the eternal heat of the earth rather than the actions of water. Spermatic theory of fossils. The spermatic theory is a historical concept centered on the idea that fossils, particularly fossilized animals or the remains found in rocks, were formed by the impregnation of inanimate matter, like rocks or minerals, by some form of organic seed or material similar to sperm. This theory emerged in a time when scientific understanding of geological and biological processes was super early. The concept was based on a belief that the existence of an amniotic earth or earth womb, a notion that the earth itself had reproductive powers similar to living organisms. According to this theory, it was suggested that the earth possessed generative qualities and that under specific circumstances, mineral substances could incubate or foster the growth of organic material, resembling seeds or germs, and which would lead to the formation of fossils within the rocks. The term spermatic originates from the belief that these organic entities could give rise to new life forms, or that they contained the potential for life. However, this concept was a speculative and non-scientific explanation for the origin of fossils. It was proposed in an era when the study of geology and biology lacked much research. A lot of these old theories, I feel like people could have made movies out of, since they're pretty creative in my opinion. Humans equal pig chimp hybrid. Alright, so this one I could definitely say belongs on this weird paleontology iceberg chart. Eugene McCarthy, a geneticist with a PhD, has proposed a controversial theory suggesting that modern humans are the result of interbreeding between pigs and ape-like animals millions of years ago. This theory, also known as the chimp-pig hybrid theory, suggests that multiple hybridization events took place at different times. producing different hominid species that we now know. McCarthy provides a list of anatomical evidence to support his theory. He points out similarities seen between humans and pigs, like our high infertility compared to other animals, our stomach valves, and hairlessness. He also connects that humans and pigs share similar organ and skin structures. McCarthy's theory isn't really based on genetic sequence comparisons though, and instead simply anatomical. His theory has been met with a bunch of criticism, as you might presume, and skepticism from the scientific community. One of the main criticisms is that pigs and chimpanzees have a different number of chromosomes, making the idea of a pig-chimp hybrid not possible. Critics also argue that the theory requires interbreeding between separate orders of animals, which is highly unlikely. Kluski Ape-Man Seance. In 1919, during a seance, which is basically like a meeting for people to try to talk to spirits, which was held by Frank Kluski, a well-known medium, there was a claim of an unusual presence. Kluski was actually reputed for summoning ghostly figures during these spiritual sessions. In this particular seance, a figure representing Pithecanthropus appeared. Pithecanthropus was once thought to be a kind of missing link between humans and apes.